All right, guys. Sunday afternoon is here, and a little bit of football rolling on. The 49ers are leading the Carolina Panthers at this point at halftime, 13-10. We saw last night the New England Patriots and Tom Brady pretty much manhandling the Indianapolis Colts. It was funny on my Facebook page. I made a post about Eli Manning taking Andrew Luck out to lunch to give him some pointers, basically. And I guess the pointers Manning gave to Andrew Luck was how to throw interceptions because Eli Manning was great at doing that this year for the New York Giants. And I'm a New York Giant fan, and I'm the first one to admit it. But anyway, the Seahawks overcame the Saints. We also have Denver and San Diego today. The winner of that game will face the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. And right now, the Seahawks are waiting to see who they're going to face, either the Carolina Panthers or the San Francisco 49ers. With that being said, a lot of rumors flying around about Ryback going to be released. Ryback's going nowhere in the WWE. Vince ain't going to let him go. They can't afford to release talent at this point in time. Ryback's been doing a lot of crazy stuff. They're blaming Ryback for the concussion of Dolph Ziggler. Um, you know, he went to clothesline Ziggler. Ziggler got out of that clothesline, but he did bang his head. I mean, it's unfortunate Dolph Ziggler's had a number of concussions since last year and the beginning of this year, so to speak. And one has to wonder where he's going to lead as the year goes on. But anyway, Ryback going nowhere, guys. I don't see him getting released unless he does something really, really asinine and real stupid, or if he continues to fail a drug test. Steroids, maybe? One has to wonder. This video is about Ric Flair, and Inside Wrestling Truth did a video on Ric Flair yesterday, and I watched that video, and it was an excellent video. So if you get a chance, watch Josh at Inside Wrestling Truth. I'll put a link in the description box below. Talking about Ric Flair and what's been going on in his life, and he got arrested on a warrant pretty much right after WWE Raw's Old School. He owed like 24,000 some odd dollars in alimony, and it just Ric Flair just seems to surface more and more these days, and you have to wonder. I mean, I'm going to tell you guys for one thing, and this is a fact. When I first started watching wrestling, and I was involved in watching the NWA, and I watched Ric Flair. I mean, he was mesmerizing as a wrestler. I mean, you loved his personality, his charisma. I mean, Space Mountain, high flying, you know, jet flying, whatever you want to call it. Ric Flair was the ultimate in professional wrestling back then. Every wrestling fan wanted to be like Ric Flair. He was the ultimate in professional wrestling. And I used to read a lot of wrestling magazines like Wrestling Illustrated. And they used to compare Ric Flair to Hulk Hogan. Who would win? This is way back before they ever had a match. And I used to tell people, without a doubt, Ric Flair would destroy Hulk Hogan. And that's just how I felt about Ric Flair. He was the biggest thing for me in the world of professional wrestling. I loved the Four Horsemen. I thought the Four Horsemen was the greatest faction ever. I still think that to this day. Without discounting DX, without discounting the NWO, to me, the Four Horsemen. Maybe it was the name that intrigued me. I don't know, but you had the likes of Ole Anderson, you had Arn Anderson, you had Tully Blanchard, and you had Ric Flair, the original Four Horsemen, which was like totally, totally great. And don't discount Gene Anderson as well. But back in the day, Ric Flair was the guy. Um, and I would say for me, Ric Flair was the guy as recently as the time that he wrestled Shawn Michaels basically where if he lost to Shawn Michaels, he'd have to retire. And Shawn Michaels did beat him. And at that point in time, you know, Raw and the WWE had this big celebration for Ric Flair, you know, his retirement. And the problem with that was he never retired. He never went away. He always seemed to find a way to get on TV. And if it wasn't with the WWE, he went into TNA. And watching him in TNA, I mean, you could see how much Ric Flair has aged. I don't know whether it's due to alcohol or any other substance abuses. I cannot say that, but I do know that he's aged so much. His hair getting thin, and that's part of getting old. But every time you saw Ric Flair, his face was always red. It didn't take much for it to turn red. And most of the time, he made a fool out of himself. And this, to me, started tarnishing his image. And then you started hearing about Ric Flair in the news. I mean, and then this led to further family incidents where his son passed away due to drugs. I mean, it makes you wonder what was going on within the family of Ric Flair. Um, was Ric Flair actually being the parent that he should have been? I don't know. I'm not one to judge, but I think all in all, over the last number of years, Ric Flair has really tarnished his image. And for me, I want to remember Ric Flair for what he was back in the days of the NWA and WCW, more so in the NWA because I think he was like the ultimate devastating superior wrestler. He had epic matches with Dusty Rhodes. Um, he had his confrontations with Magnum TA, his confrontations with Sting, um, Nikolai Koloff. I mean, they were just great. They were just awesome confrontations. And for me to constantly read about Ric Flair, on the internet and what he's going through, it's just sort of like a sad state of affairs. And you know, I don't know. I just think Rick needs to, figure himself out for the most part. Yeah, if you want to make guest appearances and and guest signings, and whatnot, go for it. I mean, I know if you're lacking of funds, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But keep yourself out of the spotlight. Stay off the wrestling shows because it does seem like when you are there, something just doesn't fit. It don't seem right. We saw him on Old School Raw where he came out. He had a confrontation with Randy Orton. John Cena had to come out and back up Ric Flair. That was okay. But then right after that, we hear about Ric Flair in the news again. And the funny part about it is, is it coincidental that Flair does a Monday Night Raw Old School? Who knows what he gets paid for that? And then all of a sudden, a warrant goes out for his arrest for, alimony. You know, obviously Flair has not been paying his alimony or whatever he owes his former ex-wife, but any kind of monetary value that he gets, if he owes money, they're going to come after him. But Ric Flair, please take my advice. You've tarnished your image way too much now. It's hard for me to remember you the way you were back in the old NWA days and the early WCW days. And that's the way I do want to remember you because for me, you were the greatest champion of all time. But as this continues to move on, I lose a lot of respect for you. And I'm sorry that I'm saying this, but you need to get a handle on things and, really protect your legacy. So that's all I got to say about Ric Flair, everybody. This is the Iceman on the Iceman's Return YouTube channel on this Sunday afternoon. If you're watching football, enjoy the rest of the 49ers and Carolina Panthers game. and definitely enjoy the game tonight with the Denver Broncos and the San Diego Chargers. It ought to be a good one. Peace out, everybody. We'll see you next time.